Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's still Rise and Shine, and we are beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Of course, we've had several conversations of things happening in Nigeria. Top of which is the money crunch and the fuel, crunch that is happening all over the country. And at this time, we will be having a focused conversation. The issue of subsidy is something well talked about, but from different quarters, we have different concerns. Is Nigeria even ready for this subsidy? Is subsidy a real thing? And of course, this morning we'll be having this conversation with our guest who is joining us virtually this morning. I would allow Janice to make the introductions.
Okay, so we're being joined this morning by Dr. Emeka Okengu, who is a development economist. Good morning, Dr. Emeka, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, how is Abuja this morning, and how are you guys coping with all of the cash crunch and fuel scarcity as well?
Well, there's nothing new that's happening. There's been cash crunch forever in Abuja and everywhere else. For crying out loud, there's been fuel crisis, in the same light. But we're coping. It's not only national; it's also global. So we're just trying to get into the new world.
Okay.
Take it or leave it. The COVID-19 crowds, redefined the way we live. So it's a new life. We're trying to adapt to it. We're coping.
Okay. Now, let's even go into our conversation proper now. Fuel subsidy. It seems to be a major conversation on the front burner as a country at this point in time. Let's also take it back to even President Muhammadu Buhari going to approve fuel subsidy removal, which, according to this administration, will be taking effect from June 2023. So we have a situation where the president is saying that we need to remove fuel subsidy because of the fuel scarcity issues and some other issues that we've been facing as a country, arbitrary spending and pricing. And of course, some people also think that the issue of fuel subsidy removal is overdue. Now, I want you to give us an overview of what's happening in terms of fuel subsidy as an expert, and if Nigeria is really ready for the fuel subsidy removal.
Thank you. I think we should start by defining what a subsidy or subsidies are.
Okay.
Okay. If you start from that definition, maybe you'll now be able to clearly understand what it is we're doing in Nigeria. Subsidies are supposed to be instruments that support in the real sense of it, productive activities. Okay, so when you're talking about subsidizing agriculture, you subsidize agriculture by probably supporting that farmer with implements, storage, energy, technical assistance and all that. That's what subsidies are all about. But I think in Nigeria, we're giving it a different meaning, that has given it a different definition. What you do in Nigeria is not subsidy. What you do in Nigeria is that you are doing what you call either under recovery, like they call it, or in its real parlance, price differential. Now, what's the difference? Any product, anything that is finished and ready for the market can be subsidized, but you cannot be able to now do what they call price differential, so that you now mark up at that base cost, and then add something to be able to now cushion the effect of those who can be able to buy it. That's what you're doing in Nigeria. Okay, and that's why each time I say to people, and I said this about 15 years ago, you are now, kicking in what they call the forces of supply and demand. You cannot subsidize, in very simple terms, what you're not producing. Now, the fuel you're subsidizing is a product, and then it has a landing cost. Now, that landing cost is now what you are now supporting with this instrument, so that if people can buy it, less the price that you imported it for. That's what's going on in Nigeria. And that's not subsidy. That is price differential. Okay. I don't know if you get that explanation.
Very well, very well. Okay. Let's even look at the fact that some people have even said, just like you said, we cannot be subsidizing what we're not even producing or refining. But some people have also said that the issue of fuel subsidy is even false, is a husk. What do you think about it? Now, for some Nigerians, it is an avenue where the government of the day of different administration now is just eating fat on Nigerians.
Well, that might be a sweeping statement. Indeed, every government wants to be seen as doing well for the people. Okay, so it could also be that people have not been able to explain this thing clearly to them. And then, yes, because fuel has become a very major ingredient. And the moment you have queues, it shows the government in bad light. So any government will do anything it can within its possible, available resources to make certain that people are able to move from point A to point B. This is where the policy miscalculations, you might say, kicking. Now, let's first understand what's going on in Nigeria. What is going on in Nigeria is that you are procuring or purchasing these products that you're subsidizing in foreign exchange. So whatever subsidies that you need to pay, whatever differentials that you need to pay, you will need to convert that money into the value of your foreign exchange that you procured it against to be able to get a value. So that is why today 60,000 liters of fuel, when your naira was at maybe $1 to 97 naira, would have amounted to maybe just taking a random figure, maybe 2 million naira. Now the same 60,000 liters where your naira is now at 400 naira would have turned into maybe something like 10 million or so. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you do not understand these elementals, you might not be able to understand that probably, yes, one or two persons might gain, but it will be a sweeping statement to say that government is feeding fat. Maybe one of two people who are bringing in these products. However, the question should not even be who is feeding fat. The question is how do we get out of this vicious circle? If indeed what you're pushing for is for your people to be able to have some kind of better options, better ways of moving around, right, without now distorting your transportation service-based systems. And you can just take a cue from Kenya. Kenya is poorer than we are in every aspect. The new president of Kenya, who came in as a popular will of the people, said on first day of office, I am going to remove whatever it is you guys call subsidy. Now, he didn't remove the subsidy and kept importing fuel. He removed subsidy and went towards electric cars. Today, you can fact check what I'm telling you. Practically all the bikes, which is where the poorest or the lower class of people, their means of transport in Kenya, are using electric batteries. So in trying to get out of a situation, you don't jump out of fire and then jump out of a frying pan and then race into the fire. So if you remove this so-called subsidy or whatever under recovery, whatever name they call it, the challenge is not removing it. The challenge is creating that alternative that can be able to cushion it.
Yeah,
So the
definitely. Just like Peter Obi of the Labour Party had said, and in one of those times that he campaigned, that the fuel subsidy removal thing is just an organized crime against Nigerians. Go ahead, Rian.
Yeah, okay, because I was going to ask on the heel of Kenya that you're talking about now, they seem to have put a system in place. Now, because part of our question and conversation this morning is Nigeria even ready to remove subsidy? We've been hampering on it. We had Goodluck Jonathan say in his time he was going to take it off, and Nigerians revolted. And then we also saw Buhari come in and then continue with the subsidy. But now it's biting again, and the conversations have resurfaced stronger. But alternatively, do you see, has Nigeria created any alternative route for Nigerians to use if this subsidy is actually removed?
Now, brilliant. Let me tell you, your fuel is not expensive because of subsidy. Your fuel is expensive because of the cost of the product and because of the currency you're buying it in.
The cost of
If
the cost of the product upon importation.
Exactly.
Yes, because you're using dollar. Listen, every $1, okay, now has a value, an official value of close to 480 naira. Official value. So what it means that anything you buy for $1, okay, has a base cost, less tax, less transportation, less storage, okay, less distribution, right? Okay, less profit of 400. Now, by the time you begin to put all these other factors, cost of transportation, cost of storage, cost of money, cost of ABCD, it cannot get to about maybe 1,000 something. Now they say, okay, nobody can buy at this 1,000 something. Let's now, pay the difference so that you can be able to buy this fuel at X amount of money. But there's no way you can buy it lesser, much more lesser than that base cost. And this is why government is running into trouble. Now, what you should just simply do is to look at, first and foremost, the major problem we have is that somehow government runs in silos, even at the national and sub-nationals. All right? Now, if you are going to be removing subsidy, okay, I'll give you a typical example. I wish I saw you people in this video. I'm almost certain that you're not using, the table mics. So you just have some tiny things tied to your chest and all that. And people can hear you clearly. Now, that happened because somebody had now improved upon the table mics, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Now, if you're removing those table mics and they're not giving you these new ones, nobody will hear you. That's the argument I'm trying to make. So if you want to remove subsidy, okay, you need to reduce importation or leave interpretation of petrol to those who want luxury. But now bring in this alternative. And the alternative, like I answer your question directly, has been there 20, 30 years ago. Nigeria had researched into what they call the compressed natural gas, the CNGs. Actually even started some stations of CNGs. But for whatever is what, they never ever promoted it. And the CNG vehicles are very popular all over the world. In fact, you go to even better developed countries in the world, India, China, Argentina, name them, Germany, they are all running, most of their vehicles, especially their public transport, run on CNGs. And you don't need to even remove the engine of your car to be able to convert to CNG. You don't need to remove. All you need to do is to put it in your boot, and your car will start running on gas. Now, you also have the new electric, you even have the hydrogen cell fuels. But because we are fixated on petrol, okay, and everybody seems to be fixated on petrol, and it is because probably we have a Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation that is not well positioned to be able to guide the process.
Okay, now beyond even diversifying into other means of, gases or PMS, why can't we as a country begin to even look inward into refining our own products? We produce this crude oil. Why can't we get our refineries working? I know that there's been talks on revamping the, I think, is it Port Harcourt refinery now?
Yeah.
There's been talks on revamping. I think there's one in Kaduna State or one of those northern states in the country. Now, we are sinking a lot of money into revamping. What has been done? Why are we not revamping these refineries? There's also talks about, even creating modular refineries for us to be able to begin to refine our crude. Why don't we look into all of those angles?
Beautiful. It's a good question. Modular refineries, brilliant. In fact, some of them are even skid mounted now. Again, remember that in a couple of months, we should be having the biggest refinery globally, in the globe, being operated in Lagos, in Nigeria.
By Dangote, yes.
Promises to be the biggest. However, I'm not very excited, about the local refining because the oil sector is clearly valued. Now, everything is against the price of your crude. And if you're going to be pricing your crude, remember I told you that the major problem we'll have is that the primary product that produces fuel is priced against the dollar. If Dangote is going to be buying his crude in dollars, he will face the same problems even those who are importing are facing. It's important you know that. So if that Dangote refinery or your modular refineries, or you're going to be revamping your refineries, you must be able to make certain that they get crude priced against Naira. As long as that crude is priced against dollar, then it has a base value of 480 Naira against whatever it is they're going to be bringing as output.
So what would it?
I hope you understand that.
Yes,
Yeah,
but that's
well.
a very salient point you're raising. But in the day that we come to that point, what would it take for them to buy crude priced against the naira? Because I mean, if we now have a refinery and we can buy the crude in naira, why would we still opt to be buying it in dollars in Nigeria?
Again, a very good question. You see, a lot of people think that Nigeria owns all the oil it produces. Well, it's not very factual. All right. People have paid you licenses, paid for those licenses to drill oil from your territory. And the oil belongs to the person who is drilling it. Now, but there's a production sharing agreement that allocates about 400,000 barrels of oil from everything that is produced in the country on a daily basis to Nigeria. So until we get into developing our own capacity, indigenous capacity to produce our own oil, which I think we'll try to do using the SPDC or something, not NSPD, one of these local refining systems that, as I even speak to you, has also gotten into a joint venture, okay, that is cash called. So the challenge is, first, our indigenous capacity to produce using our own rigs, using our own funds, using our own technical capacity, using our own human capital, using our own ships, okay, to be able to store them. Now, the moment you have some other person bringing this service, he needs to recover his money. Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
it's not as straightforward as, oh, we own the crude. Why are we not? No, you don't own the crude. Okay, you own the land that holds the crude. You have given the license to somebody who now has authority over that place, for a certain period of time, and the person is paying you royalty. Now, let me put it this way again so that it can be simplified for your listeners. It's like you're building a house and somebody's paid you rent, for 2 years in that house. Okay? Now, who owns the house? Is it you or the person who is renting it?
Well, the person that is renting it.
That's exactly the situation in the oil sector. Yes, we can claim that I built this house, but you don't have any access or authority over that house as long as that person is keeping to your rental agreements. So that's exactly what's happening, and people don't understand this. So you're wondering how come we're producing 1.8 million barrels
Barrels
of
of
oil
oil.
every day, and then government is going to borrow money, because if you do the maths of 1.8 million barrels against what you sell oil in the international market, we should be awash with a lot of dollars. But because we don't run a national oil company, which we are trying to now correct with the PIB, hopefully, we've run what we call multinational oil companies that now allow for foreign investors to be able to now bring the money, bring the technology, bring the equipment, bring the facilities, bring the human capital, and then we now do what we call production sharing or profit sharing. So you don't get all your crude.
Okay, so let's even put things in perspective now as we begin to round down on the conversation. If going by all that you have said, you think that it is necessary for us to take off subsidy completely from our PMS products?
I've been struggling to tell that there's nothing called subsidy.
Okay, so you agree
What
that
you're
it
doing
is
is
more like an
you're
organized
doing
crime
price
as well?
differential.
So it,
What you just simply need to do is to stop paying the difference, and then find alternative for those who can't be able to afford that high cost.
Now, it is
It's
even this
important to get that
difference,
clearly.
Dr. Emeka, it is even this difference that some Nigerians are saying that the government is milking the country dry. Now, the government has also said that let us take away the price differences, okay, and then sink it into building other things like infrastructure, road infrastructure, get like transportation systems working so that it can cushion the effect. Because if we're saying that we are going to be taking off subsidy from fuel, that means that we might not be buying fuel and petrol for the price at which we're buying now. It would definitely be higher and more costlier. So the government is saying that let's take out that excess that we are paying and then see how we can plunge that into building more infrastructures, transportation systems, electricity, and all of that.
Now, you see, let me put this clearly to you. Okay, when you talk about people, you're talking about building social systems.
Exactly.
Okay, if you don't build social systems, then you can't be able to help your people. So it's not enough for you to remove subsidy and put it into infrastructure, and it's not helping people. Now, what you need to do is to be able to understand how development works, and you tie it end to end. If you don't understand how development works, you're going to be missing the gaps and missing the steps. And then somebody says to you, okay, we're going to be using the excess, and then we'll put it into infrastructure. In infrastructure development, there's what they call critical and social infrastructure. And again, in some certain instances, what is critical to you might be social to some other person. It's complex, but it's fairly simple. Now, point I'm trying to make is very simple. first and foremost, what is most important is that you want to get to work. Okay? Somebody wants to go to the market. Somebody wants to go to school. Somebody wants to get from point A to point B at the lowest possible cost. Okay?
Yeah.
That is the priority. So the lowest possible cost will be how am I able to now conserve energy? How am I able to conserve energy in my house, conserve fuel energy, conserve this energy to be able to get from point A to point B? This is where you need to think technologically. Now, if you do not think mathematically and scientifically, you're not able to understand it. Because from the utterance, what you're saying now, we are thinking politically. Nigerian people. Okay, how many are these people? What do they do? What is their disposable income? Now, these are things that you must be able to understand clearly before you can begin to make this your plans. Are you feeling what I'm saying? Because
Exactly.
you might just find out there are so many alternatives that can be able to help you. And by the time anybody sees fuel, it's like diesel now. Very few people, I'm not ashamed to say this on air, I have not turned on my diesel generator for 3 years. I
Wow.
haven't.
Wow.
And I don't have any intentions to go and use my money to buy diesel at 800 naira a liter. To do what now? But we must begin to now question the process to be able to now start thinking about how best we can be able to make lives a lot easier for everybody. And then that way you can begin to look. I've just given you an example of Kenya. How come Kenya is not in crisis after they removed the subsidy? Have you had anybody going to protest it? Because there was a clear alternative that people, were shown. And they saw the difference both in cost, price, and even environmental impact. So until we get to that point where we begin to understand these things clearly, we are unfortunately going to be running around in circles.
So obviously
Okay.
we are not ready for it as a country.
I wouldn't know. I've just given you my thoughts as a professional. It's for you people who are listening to me to tell. I mean, it's like an elephant and the three blind men. It might also be that we are maybe getting ready to, like you mentioned, that Peter B, had said that it was an organized fraud. Well, that might be a little bit too extreme, but I think that it is something that needs to be, thought through, and then you'll be able to see the clear gaps and the red lines, and then you close them and we'll move on.
Okay, so another conversation in terms of fuel products is moving from, the ones we use to fossil fuels, and then people are also trying to traverse to green energy to leave, dependence on gas. I know that we are not even there yet as a country, but we are talking alternatives in terms of making futuristic plans for us as a nation. What would you say Nigeria can do differently, with regard to this? We also, because I think that was last year now, we were getting into this gas deal to build a pipeline across nations. What is really our strategy in terms of moving, even let's leave subsidy aside, moving to, use of fossil fuels or transversing to green energy?
Okay, you see, it's a very good question. First and foremost, we are a gas country. And
Yeah.
thus far, there is no nation. If you've ever gone anywhere, everybody talks gas. Gas is the backbone. Gas is the foundation, of human existence, as it were, because it gives you practically everything. Now, all we need to do is to be able to now focus on our gas, clean it up, build aggregation points, put out pipes that can be able to turn it into either energy or fertilizer or butylene or acetylene or CNGs. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, so gas is it. But it is not enough for you to say you want to build pipelines. You also need to understand and have the technology and know-how and funding to be able to do it. And this is where the disposable capital of those who are going to be buying these products come into play. But sometimes it might appear to be a chicken and an egg thing. Which one comes first? Would it be to bring the energy that will unlock those who will now pay for it, or would it be to, unlock the capital and then people can be able to pay? So it becomes a little bit dicey. But what's important is that there has to be a national master plan.
Okay.
And what is this national master plan? It's not going to be, we've done a lot of our statistics on very faulty data. We've done a lot of our planning on very faulty statistics and data. Now, what do I mean? In Akwa Ibom, or where you're calling me from now, you will be very surprised that even the office, the Statistical General Office in that place, does not have the true statistics of life and birth in the states. So how are you going to be planning schools? How are you going to be planning roads? How are you going to be planning hospitals? Okay, because we've played with the most important data we need to develop, and which is our population data, for very obvious reasons. And what is the obvious reasons? We are now allocating our national resources against what we call per capita income. So the population now plays a very major role in allocating state resources. And this is not how people develop, because people are now, twinkling with these figures. You don't know how to, somebody tells you about 200 million, another person says we are 300 million. All these are just figures that people are just bandering and catching from the air. Now, that is the bane of Nigeria's development challenges. So until you know how many people you're planning for, if for those of you who do events planning, okay, the first thing you do is that you ask how many people are coming before you begin to plan your chairs, plan your seats, plan your sitting arrangements, plan your food, plan your drinks, plan your transportation. Is that not so?
Sure that.
Now, this is what we are not applying to national development, and this is actually the bane, of our developmental trajectory.
All right. Okay, so just to wrap this up, you've done great, but we usually like to wrap our conversations around the parts that Nigerians have to play in all of this.
Yeah.
Because we are looking at whether we like it or not, whether it is price differential or a subsidy that Nigerians are calling it. In the next couple of years, especially as projected this year, subsidy might be removed. I mean, Zainab Ahmed has given up to June, July for that to be implemented. What part do Nigerians have to play in preparing themselves for the coming removal of subsidy or price differential?
Okay, I tell you. It's let me answer you what's going on now. The first question you asked me when I got on air was, how is Abuja, cash crunch and all that and all that. The first is that we need to be citizens of our country, okay, and not mobs. And if you've watched in any country that's been able to develop, they can march the streets for 10 days. You won't even see them pull out a flower. But in our own case, the moment any little thing goes wrong and you don't understand it, people start destroying properties. Okay, that's not proper. Now, what we need to do as Nigerians is that we need to know that in building this country, in taking it from step 1 to step 2, we must be able to think things through. Why has this happened? What can we be able to do as citizens? Because we actually own this country, but you cannot be talking about, a raging mob that does not want to listen because somebody has just mobilized them to go and start destroying stuff. In fact, there were even posters going around, vote Buhari or Buhari should leave office. That's not how you do things. Okay, we must be able to, first and foremost, no matter how much we disagree with their policies, the Bible says pray for your leaders. Okay, so the first thing is that we must believe in our country, and believing in our country means that we must first and foremost, in our choice of who leads us, okay, we must be very, very, very deep in taking that decision. A lot of us take 2,000 naira, 3,000 naira. By the time the man gives it to maybe 1 million people, he has spent about 300 million naira. He's going to recover it. But by the time we consciously begin to say, this man or Janice does not have money, but Janice has character and depth. Janice, come and become our governor because we know you can deliver. Janice will ride a bicycle to work. But by the time somebody goes to borrow money, sells houses to be able to now buy your votes, and eventually you come and say that he's not doing well. So for me, the first thing we should do is to get involved in the procurement of public officers in Nigeria. You ask me the role of Nigerians, and make certain that you do this in your good conscience. I've had arguments where people say when they get there, they will remember me, but they won't be there forever.
Exactly.
That's what's important.
Okay. All right.
And you have systems that can be able to make them accountable. So for us, it begins with us as Nigerians.
Attitudinal change.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Emeka Okengu, development economist. Thank you so much for your time. It was just a brilliant conversation you've had with us this morning.
Have a great day.
And you too. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I like the fact that he said, look, for every policy that comes, we shouldn't take it with that attitude of restrain. Is it restrain now? That is the right word to use at this time. But you know, there's something that comes with change.
More like we attack the policy.
Yes, we attack the policy first before we even sit down to think about it and even allow it to integrate into us. So the first thing that happens is we are so pushy about it. We are hostile towards it, and the next thing is a protest. And you're not just protesting peacefully; you're bringing our clubs, you're destroying properties, and you know, doing all of that. So I like the fact that we should first of all be Nigerians. We should first of all love our country and see how we can join hands with the government of the day, whether they're doing it right or not, to see how we can move forward as a country.
Yeah, but also placing these structures in place to make these, you know, public officials accountable to Nigerians is something that will help. But we couldn't agree less with Dr. Emeka. We need to be citizens of this country. We are, you know, part of the people who are absolutely destroying our country at this time. Even look at the money issue. Is your fellow Nigerian that is selling money to you. It's not President Buhari from Aso Rock. It's Nigerians doing Nigerians all over the country at this time. But I think we'll just wrap up the show at this point.
We'll take our tidbits. Let's take our tidbits. Let's start with, did you know? It's been a while we had tidbits on our show.
Well, the tongue is attached from just one end, somewhere in there, you know.
Okay. The only part of the
body.
Yeah, that is attached from just one end. Okay. I didn't know that. Now I know. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think we can take our health tip for this morning.
Yeah, sure. We can.
To be for people that like pets.
Yeah.
I do not like any pet of any nature.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I like them dogs. I like dogs.
No, not
But I also hope that I get a small dog that never gets to grow, you know. So
okay,
I'll get a species.
Chihuahuas.
Yes, that's, you know, do not grow. So they're just little, and of course they are pets.
They're just there.
So enough time or minimum time to play. Playtime is also good.
It will help your minimum energy performance.
Yes.
Okay,
so
we'll
when you're
find
running
a way
around
to boost
with your
that
pet.
performance in another way. Definitely not with pets. All right, so we can take our quote of the day.
Yeah,
and that's how we're wrapping it up this morning.
You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. Malala Yousafzai, okay, activist. You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. Great quotes there. You're never too old to start something new, set new goals, dream new dreams, dreams that are bigger than your, you know, whatever your imagination. Just dream dreams, set new goals. It's never too old to do that. Just like they say, it's never too old for you to go to school. You know, you can go to school at any age at all. It's getting education, whether formal or informal education. You're never too old to learn. Okay, that's it. This is where we draw the curtains on today's show. It's been a great one. Thank you so much for being at the other end and always tuning in to Rise and Shine Daily. We'll see you again tomorrow. Of course, my name is Janice Kopum. Do have a great day.
Of course, today is a good day to rise and shine, like we said from our quote. So go ahead and do that thing that's been on your mind for the longest time. My name is Uyai Anek, and thanks to everyone who contributed to give us a very successful production today. We'll definitely see you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of our programming as we hand you over to Sports Central.